What was the biggest challenge going out on your own?
Well, I guess the biggest challenge was we launched in June 2008, which was just before one of the largest financial crises this world and generation has ever seen. So that in itself is a challenge, trying to convince the original set of investors that the investment story was still intact and had legs and was secular, not just cyclical. Putting together an investment case which to some extent runs contrary to the narrative that still exists today, that Africa is a basket case, that there are no investments to be made, that we're all poor, starving people who need help from everybody else, as opposed to a growing, vibrant middle class with some highly trained, very successful, very skilled managers of companies who can deliver the appropriate returns to discerning investors who are prepared to look, I guess, through what I would call the fly in the eye view that you sometimes get from the major corporations.
Talk to me a bit about the investment proposition here. I did a bit of research, and the number that I came up with in 2012 was around 35 million in assets. That number's increased significantly. Where are you looking to invest?
Essentially and yes, the number has significantly increased. Yes, what we do is distill the countries, 54 of them. Not every country is one that has an either investable market or investable companies, or not every country has a set of conditions which gives us the level of comfort that over time our investors will be happy with us making investments in those companies. We then drill down below the surface of your ability to be able to move your money in and out, your ability to be able to get access to good and clean information, your ability to get access to management teams, and then your ability to get access to the thought process that goes into the way the country is going to be run. So we can actually build a picture of the long-term prospects of not just companies, but also economies as well.
So at Nubuke, you don't own things and you don't run things. You're a 6-member team, you're quite nimble. How does that give you an advantage?
Almost all the team have spent time either investing solely in Africa or focused on Africa, or like myself, slightly wider remit in emerging markets. And so we have the fundamental discipline of investing and valuations. On top of that, it's relationships. It's what I would describe as our ability to get access to accurate and timely information. We're regulated by the UK authorities, so I always have to be very careful of what I say, but we're regulated by the UK authorities, which holds us to a very high standard when it comes to our ability to then go out and raise money from international investors.
Where do you look for your profits? Are we talking futures, stocks, bonds, anything in particular?
The good thing about the African continent is all of the above. If I was to take a look back over the last 7 years as to where profits have been generated, it's almost always a different country every year. So we just have to be open-minded about where the returns will come from, be very focused on the risks associated with the perceived returns, make sure that we are doing a lot of detailed analytical work, and then it becomes a question of hopefully making the right choices on a yearly basis.
What about the profile of your investor? Who is interested in investing in Africa? Are we talking about the Americans? We're talking about Europeans? Where are you seeing your investors coming from?
Our potential investor is anyone and everyone, ranging from some of the largest institutional investors in the world through to some of the smallest individuals in the world who wish to invest. We have limits as to what they can and can't do. I think a lot of the more discerning interest has been coming out of America. I guess up until recently, I think the US institutional investor, US endowment, has been a lot more open to looking at returns based upon the investment facts that are presented to it rather than some of the hype that exists around the continent. And so we've seen a lot more traction there. This year has been a little bit more challenging because we've obviously seen a lot more negative press about the continent. The spectre of Ebola in 3 out of the 54 countries has translated into the spectre of Ebola in the whole of Africa. The markets haven't done as well relative to other global markets, I think, with a combination of potential China slowdown, which is something not in our control. The collapse of the oil price has forced a lot of governments all over the world to reassess investments, investment proceeds, budgets, business plans and the like. We have US shale, which is the new kid on the block and what happens there. And all of that translates into a level of geopolitical instability that we have not seen for a very, very long time.
Instead of talking about sector-specific investment, let's talk about country-specific investment. What's particularly attractive to you today?
I think the biggest opportunity set, which still carries a bit of risk, is Nigeria. I mean, we've seen in the last month a significant drop in the value of the stock market because the price of oil has dropped significantly. The currency has also weakened significantly. We're seeing there's an MPC in the next couple of days. We're going to see some significant policy responses. We have seen responses from the Minister for the Economy in terms of resetting the budget level for the country. There's an election coming up in Valentine's Day, actually. February 15th, 2015 is the purported date. Assuming that Nigeria can go through that pretty successfully, pretty smoothly, which we think it will, then you have 5 years of a benign political environment. I think Nigeria is one of the unsung heroes of the African continent. The ex-oil, and I'll separate ex-oil from oil, there has been, I think, one of the largest transformation in agriculture in almost any country in Africa, and the minister there has done a phenomenal job. Trade and industry is seeing an extraordinary rise in the level of investments there, driven by the minister. The privatization of the energy sector is one that goes unsung. It is a little behind schedule, but that is really transformative. And all of those mean that, given the size, 1 in 4 or 5 black Africans is Nigerian. It's the largest economy. If the oil price settles down and they're able to fix some of the structural issues, I think Nigeria stands on the cusp of being able to deliver some really significant returns to investors.